Hey everyone, first of all, I'm not using my external microphone to record this. I'm using the internal microphone in my phone. Also, I do apologize if I'm a little tired. If I sound tired, I am because I did work today. And also, I do apologize if you hear any vibrational noises. Those are going to be like notification, text messages, stuff like that. That'll be coming through. But what I want to do here is talk about the one thing a lot of people have been talking about, from Kicking It with Ross of In the Clutch to, I'm sure, what JD and Solomonster are saying currently right now on Tuesday Night Titans, to what Just Alex has said, to what Solomonster and JD said on their own, to what others have said. Even Eric Bischoff has touched upon this. And that is the insane ticket prices that TKO, through WWE, I should say, through TKO, mostly TKO themselves, have been putting, on all the tickets, to attend these WWE premium live events, if not Raw, SmackDown, NXT maybe by extension, Evolve by extension. The ticket prices are just insane, and it mostly has to do with what WrestleMania is going for next year. Now everybody talks about how WrestlePalooza, for one ticket to WrestlePalooza, you had United States wise, USD wise, you had to spend around, you had to spend around, if not a little over, $6,000 for front row. And when you think about it, that is basically, depending on your living arrangements, that is your rent or mortgage, plus what you pay for utilities, the water, gas, electricity, you name it. If they're not all combined in one area or under one company, you pay for your water, your gas, and your electricity, separately, or in my case, I pay gas and electricity together, which is through PG&E. The water is through the city utilities, as well as the garbage and recycling pickup. But basically, you combine, like I said, your rent or your mortgage with those bills, along with, let's say your cable bill, along with, let's say, your live TV, your live streaming TV bill, either Sling or Friendly or whatever. You combine it with that. You combine it with, your subscriptions to HBO Max, to Spotify, to Disney Plus, Paramount, ESPN, you name it, Amazon Music, Amazon Prime itself. When you combine all of that together along with the rent or mortgage, you combine all of that, it will not equal, and this is the truth, it will not equal to the amount you would have to spend for one ticket, front row, or at least decent row-wise, to a WWE event. That's how expensive TKO has made them. They have essentially, and this is true, and I will agree with it, they are pricing out families, or at least they think so. And I'll get that to that in a moment. But I bring this up due to the fact that when you look at the WrestleMania tickets, the most expensive, if you want to be up close and personal, front row and stuff, the most expensive, goes, front row goes for over $8,000. Over $8,000. That, again, doesn't equal to the amount, or maybe it does, depending on your living arrangements, of your bills, your streaming, your subscription streaming services, your cable bill if you still have cable, so on and so forth, your utilities, you name it. Basically, again, depending on your living arrangements, it doesn't equal, basically all of that doesn't equal to the amount, TKO is charging for one front row ticket to WrestleMania 42 in Vegas. Not one. It does, it doesn't, that's what I'm saying. Again, I do apologize, I am tired, so I'm getting tongue-tied. But like I said, it doesn't equal up to one ticket, all of that combined. Now, again, like I said, it depends on your living arrangements. If you live in a luxury apartment, if you will, in Vegas or, around the country, and all that, but you still have to pay rent or mortgage, then yeah, it might equal along with your services and all that, utilities and all that, yeah, it might equal to the amount of one ticket to attend WrestleMania. It might, but again, it may not. For some of us, it doesn't. It really doesn't, honestly. And this is what's getting, really a lot of people upset at the fact that TKO, in their minds, and this is me as well, they don't understand the wrestling business. They don't. Everybody talks about, Ronda Rousey and how she still doesn't get the wrestling business, how she still doesn't understand that the reason, because she went on and she did a shoot, if you will. She did an interview, a shoot interview, if you will, where she talked about how basically in her mind, for no sensible reason, they decided to put her in the ring with Alexa Bliss. They wanted to put her in the ring, so that, Alexa Bliss could get her, put her over and all that. And also make her look like a badass. That being Ronda. But, Ronda went on this interview and basically said she didn't understand it. To her, it didn't make sense because to her, Bliss was beneath her. Like, she had no business being in the ring with someone like Bliss that, in reality can't stand toe-to-toe with her in a fight or in any kind of combat, atmosphere, period. And a lot of people looked at this interview and a lot of people said the same thing. They said, even still, she doesn't get the wrestling business. Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, if you will, Bully Ray, on Busted Open Radio even said that. And the one common answer everybody, from fans to people like Bully Ray, Dave Lagana, if you will, excuse me, like I said, I'm tired and all that, I do apologize. But Dave Lagana, Nick Nemeth, formerly Dolph Ziggler, and again, Bully Ray and many others. Everybody, along with them, and fans included, like I said, have all said the same thing. And that is, she still, after all this time, she still doesn't understand the business, especially from the WWE end of things. Because you see, on the WWE end of things, you're supposed to be put in the ring. If you're going to be put over, if you're going to be made to look like a badass, you need to be put in the ring with the person who's not only at the top of your division, and also probably holds the top, that division's top prize, but also is the top merch seller for that division. And Bliss was all of that combined. And yet Ronda goes on this interview and basically complains at the fact that to her, it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. And this is why a lot of people got on her for not still understanding the business, even though over the past couple of years, she's pretty much lambasted WWE for being, a clown show, for being basically a waste of time and all that. And the reason I bring this all up, the reason I talk about this is because people like me look at TKO, like people like Mark Shapiro and those there, and even Ari Emanuel, and we're like, these people, some of these people at TKO, like Shapiro and Emanuel, but mostly Shapiro, and maybe their, ticket pricing team, some of them don't understand wrestling. Some of them don't understand that WWE is not like UFC. It's not like, TKO boxing, or top promotional boxing. It's not like the Zuffa boxing that Dana White's got coming. It's not like that. This is a family-friendly event, or at least a family-oriented, event, not event, but promotion. It's a family-friendly, if not family-oriented promotion. Families of all ages can come and escape from the real world for at least a couple of hours. A lot of people look at the fact that people like Mark Shapiro and others, mostly, like I said, those that, in charge of the ticket pricing, don't understand that. And this is why basically they're pricing families out, out of the WWE events, because they look at WWE as being in the same league, combat sports-wise as UFC, Top Promotional Boxing, TKO Boxing, Zuffa Boxing, you name it. But here's one thing they haven't counted on. You see, you always look into the crowds, right? And you see it's always going to be a sellout. Now, you might say to yourself, wow, I guess those people have a lot of money saved up. They could do, they could do these events, right? Well, that might be true for some of them in attendance, but not all of them. You see, I have a family member that told me this during a birthday party, a little birthday get-together we had at Red Lobster last month. And long story short, basically what he told me was that the way he was able to attend Monday Night Raw in Sacramento, which, by the way, they're coming back on October 20th, and he did hint at the fact that he wanted to take me and another family member with him to go see it. But, he told me basically that, or at least it sounded like this, sounded this way to me, that the way he was able to attend Raw was he put himself on a payment plan. That's right. You see, a lot of these people might be doing the same thing. And a payment plan basically is you're paying back, for what, you originally were supposed to pay initially. Like, let's say you're getting, seats for, 3 people, and the seats, at least for Raw, are like $250 a piece, right? So you're looking at $750, right? So you're doing a payment plan, of maybe $100 every month or $50 every month to try to pay that up. So that way you can have the opportunity to go back and do it again. You go back and do it again. So to me, I think and believe that's exactly what's going on here. In TKO, maybe they do, maybe they don't realize that's how people are selling them out, with their attendance. They're going on these payment plans where they will be able to basically, long story short, they'll be able to basically go and enjoy, a Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown or PLE or what have you, a regular live event, what have you. And that's how a lot of people are going to basically, enjoy in-person WrestleMania. A lot of them are going to go on payment plans, even as we speak, to buy their tickets, and they're just going to add that to the slew of bills, if you will, that they have to pay on a monthly basis or when they can. That's what they're going to do. They're just going to put it, with the slew of bills that they have to pay, every month, if not when they have the opportunity. That's what they're going to do. And if that's the way people if that's the only way people are going to be able to attend, in person, these WWE events, then so be it. That's the only way. And that's probably the best way. It's probably the best way because let's be honest, in today's economy, there is no way people can afford a single ticket to a WrestleMania at the price it's going for, no matter what the seating arrangements. The same with, Survivor Series upcoming in San Diego and so on. Nobody has that money. And when you look at the fact that tonight, as I'm recording this, we're potentially going to have a U.S. government shutdown, and I don't think it's going to be a long one. I think it'll just be a temporary one, very temporary. When you look at that and everything, not that it's going to affect anybody financially, from what I've understood, but basically it's just being done to make sure something gets done in the process so that it can reopen. But basically, when you look at the financial situation overall, it's just not in the realm of possibility to allow people to go and spend money, spend the money that they don't have to buy these tickets. So what's the solution? The solution is basically to go out, put yourself on a payment plan, and then add that to your stack of bills. That's it. That's all you can do. And again, I'm sure that's what a lot of these people that have been selling out, Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, and they sold out WrestlePalooza, They're definitely going to sell out Crown Jewel, as well as Survivor Series War Games, in San Diego. That's what a lot of them are doing. Because I also can guarantee you, internationally, the ticket prices are not cheap either. I think the international audience knows this. And I think that's what they're doing as well. They're going on payment plans as well themselves, to where they're like, yeah, I want to be there, but I ain't spending, let's say, 40,000 pounds, if you will, UK money, I think, 40,000 pounds or 40,000 euros, if you will, for a front row or middle of the road seat to be there live. I'll go on a payment plan instead. You can't tell me they're not experiencing the same thing we are, because they are. That's a fact. But yeah, to me, do I think it's ridiculous that they're doing this? Absolutely. Especially in this climate, it is definitely ridiculous. In fact, a lot of people have made this comparison. And I said it earlier. They made this comparison at the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, Ronda Rousey, when she did the interview, people said that even though she's been gone and lambasting the WWE, basically, shooting on it and saying it's a clown show and everything like that, a lot of people, even including those that I mentioned, like Bully Ray, Nick Nemeth, Dave Lagana, and so on, everybody, along with them, fans like me and other, personnels in the wrestling business have all said the same thing. If he doesn't still understand the business, and that in wrestling business, mostly WWE, that the only way you're going to get put over is be put in the ring with the top heel or face in the company, in the division of that company, I should say, as well as also be put in the ring with them if they have the top championship of said division. And by doing so in the process, look like a badass. Look like a badass. And that's it. And yet people say after the interview she did, as I mentioned earlier, she doesn't quite get it. And like I said, in comparison, this is why people look and probably think that Mark Shapiro and those doing the ticket pricing for TKO when it comes to WWE don't understand the difference between WWE, UFC, WWE, Zuffa boxing, WWE and Top Promotions boxing, TKO boxing, you name it. They don't understand the difference. They look at it as in the same realm as being a combat sport. And it's a combat sport, but it's not like those other ones. So honestly, what they need to do is talk to Mark Shapiro. They need to talk to Ari Emanuel. They need to talk to the ticket pricers over at TKO and tell them, hey, listen. We know you like to put WWE in the same category as UFC and all the other combat sports. But guess what? They're not in that same category. They're family oriented. They're not exactly combat sports through and through. So what you need to do, hold on for a second, guys. Hold on for a second, that's the phone ringing. Hold on. Sorry about that, but like I said, what they need to do, honestly, is they need to somebody needs to talk to them and basically tell Shapiro, Emanuel, and the ticket pricers, over at TKO, they need to tell them, like I was saying, sorry about that, guys, but like I was saying, basically, somebody needs to take Mark Shapiro, Ari Emanuel, and whoever the ticket prices over at TKO are, take them aside and say, "Hey guys, we get that you think WWE is in the same combat sports genre as UFC and boxing and all that, but it's not. It's family oriented. It's not exactly combat sports to a T. It's more choreographed and all that. So what you need to do is kind of take a step back on the ticket pricing and make it more affordable, make it more realistic for families that want to go to this event or go to these shows. That's what they need to do. That's what somebody needs to do. Because if not, then basically the ticket prices are going to drive people away. Now, not necessarily drive them away, because if they're doing payment plans, that's fine. but payment plans can only last for so long. And eventually people are going to get driven away. They are. So somebody does need to step in and talk to them about this. They do. They need to step in and say, hey, lower the prices. WWE is not the same as UFC or boxing. It's completely different, and this is why. Get them to understand. Get them to understand and all that. The difference between WWE and UFC and boxing and so on. Get them to understand the difference. I mean, I get it. I understand that TKO has a TKO through Endeavor. They have a lot of debt to pay, and they're doing what they can to, rid themselves of that debt. I get it. But here's a lesson that should be taught, okay? Here's a lesson that should be taught. If you're in debt, then don't go out and put your name on the dotted line and purchase something that you don't really have the money to purchase. What you need to do, first of all, is pay your debt off, then purchase it. But I get it. A lot of people, everybody was happy when TKO or Endeavor bought WWE and formed TKO with UFC and all that. That's fine. Well, we're all happy because the fear, and I do apologize for that notification, guys, but the fear was that basically, the Saudis, Saudi Arabia, the Riyadh season, the sporting entertainment, group out there would have bought it. And that's an opinionated, worry if that would have happened, but thankfully it didn't. But again, it doesn't matter who you are. If you have debt, but you're also wanting to buy something to add to your portfolio, wait on it. Maybe work out a deal to where, hey, let us get to this certain point of paying off our debt, then let us purchase you. Let us be the first to get you and go from there. But, here we are. Here we are in a situation to where Endeavor was, so desperate to pay off their debt, that they're using the TKO brand to do it. But, yeah, again, I do agree that this ticket pricing and all that, it's just getting out of hand. And it's, it does need to stop because, like I said, even payment plans are not going to last long. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below, like the video, ring the bell for notifications. Also, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube, as well as click on the first link to go to my fourth wall store. It's a new store I have. I only have one piece of merchandise up there, guys, but there will be more in the future, I do promise. As well as go to the Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else as well. That's on the bottom of the descriptions. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are on the whole outrageous ticket pricing by TKO for WWE events. Do you think somebody does need to step in and intervene and get them to understand the difference between WWE, UFC, and boxing and all that? And also, do you think maybe payment plans are probably the best way to go right now? And if you are a fan, are you on a payment plan, that allows you to go to these events, but in the process you have to pay back, what, initially what you would have spent originally had you had the money? Let me know, and until then, guys, I'll talk to y'all later.